In this guide we're going to use GUI Builder to create some buttons. The first type of button we're going to look at is a simple rectangular button that displays some face text as well as an optional icon. We can add the button here. Let's make it a little bit bigger. To change the text, we look at the property grid here and we have a property called text. We simply delete the existing text and type in some new text. Notice that if the text is too wide for the button, it will be wrapped around onto multiple lines. Now let's add our icon. If we look down here, we find a property called icon file. So if we click on that and locate the file that we're interested in. Now the file I'm interested in is in the folder called images and it's called smile.png. The icon image can have 1, 2 or 3 images tiled horizontally. If there are 3, then the first one is used if the mouse is not over the button, the second when the mouse moves over the button, and the third when the mouse button is pressed. We simply need to tell GUI Builder how many tiles there are, and we can do that here. So we'll change the 1 to a 3, press enter. Okay, before we see our button in action, let's change the text to bold. Where is it? Oh, there it is. Bold. Let's just move it up here a bit. Okay, now let's start our sketch. So there's our button. If I move the mouse over, we get the mouse over image. Click, we get the mouse pressed image, and that's our button. Let's move this just out of the way now. The next type of button is the image button, and we can add that here. The first thing to do is locate the image you want to use when the mouse is not over the button. So if we come across here to the mouse off image property and click, we now select the mouse off image, and that is coins0.png. The next one is the mouse over image. So we go here, and that's coins1. And finally, the mouse pressed image, coins2. GUI Builder will copy these image files over to the sketch folder for you, so you don't have to do anything there. Before we have a look at this button in action, let's sort of make it a little bit bigger to make it easier to see. There we go. And now we go to view it. So here's our button, there's our rectangular button, and here's our image button. Notice that any transparent area is not treated as part of the button. Only the non-transparent parts represent the hotspot for the button. This allows us to create irregular shaped buttons. The last button we're going to look at is another image button, but it demonstrates how we use a mask to define the button's hotspot. So we'll go here and select image button. We'll move this other one out of the way down here. Let's come back here. Okay, so the first bit is the same as before, the mouse off image first. There we go. And then the mouse over image. The mouse pressed image. Okay. The other thing we can do if we want is, if we want to use the image size for our button, we can click here. So let's see this button in action. Notice that the images we've used had no transparent areas, so the whole image surface is the button's hotspot. If we only want part of the image to be a hotspot, we need to apply an alpha mask, and we'll see how to do that now. So we'll close that. Go back to our grid, and there's an option here to use an alpha mask. If we click on that, and then we can select the mask image. The mask image is basically a black and white image where the black parts represent the hotspot. So there's our image. So we use that. And so now let's see that in action. Okay, notice now that the button hotspot is represented by Tom and Jerry, and so that is how we use an alpha mask. Let's close that down. Before we leave this guide, I'd like us to have a look at the sketch folder. So here's a sketch folder for the sketch we've just created with the 3 buttons. Inside the folder there are 2 PDE source code files, one for each tab. That's buttondemo.pde and GUI.pde, and the sketch properties file created by processing. The 2 folders were created by GUI Builder. If we look inside the data folder, we find copies of all the image files used by our buttons. These were copied there by GUI Builder. By putting them in the data folder, we ensure that they will be included when exporting an application. The GUI Builder data folder is reserved for GUI Builder, and you shouldn't edit the contents unless you know what you're doing. If we look inside, there's just one file which is used to store details of our GUI design. This file is only needed by GUI Builder and is ignored by the final sketch. So that's it for buttons. Thanks for watching.